I have a lot of questions for us that I hope to answer, at least in part today. I want us to always be thinking, is this church safe? Is it safe enough? Is it as safe as possible? What is it that's making us less safe here? What is safeguarding and why does it matter? Is it even really a faith thing? Where's the power here and who's holding it? What do we miss because of our biases? What does safeguarding well cost, and is it worth it? Whose responsibility is it? What can we all be doing to make it safer? What counts as a safeguarding concern? What would you do practically in that sort of a situation, and what would happen? There's a lot to look at. Safeguarding is it's a tricky topic, I understand that. And mostly what you understand I'm talking about is how the church deals with things that have gone wrong, with abuse and neglect and problems in the church or even caused by the church. I want us to always approach this with hope. Two of the songs we've had today have been we'll have one from Matt Redman that we just had, and our last one is from Vicky Beeching, two people who write worship songs and have been hurt and damaged and abused within and by the church at times and are still singing songs of praise. It's a powerful testimony that we can fix this stuff and do it well and do it right. But is this a faith thing, or should I just be doing the safeguarding stuff like in extended notices when we talk about the coffee rotas and things like this? Is this supposed to be the sermon bit? Yes. This is a faith thing because it is a love thing and a justice thing. That Romans reading that Amelia read to us so well tells us to put love in action, to be ardent about it, to hate what is evil and hold fast to what is good. That's what safeguarding is. It is hating the evil of the structures and systems and occasionally the things done by people of abuse and neglect and fighting against it, holding fast to what is good with loving and just actions. The reading from Matthew that we could have a whole different sermon on is about making sure vulnerable people can get to Jesus, and is a condemnation of anybody who is getting in the way of vulnerable people getting to Jesus. Psalm 91 that we heard bits of earlier maintains that God is a place of safety and refuge, and his church should be too. Are we? Safeguarding is love. It is looking after people, especially the marginalized and vulnerable, which always includes children, but isn't just them. We talk about how we're all God's favourites here, but God's favourites always seem to be especially the marginalised and the vulnerable and the powerless. Safeguarding is justice as well. It is a kingdom value, for we follow a God of justice. And these are not just feelings, love and justice. They are actions. They need putting into practice. The church globally has sometimes failed at this. And we know that when someone says sorry and they don't try and change their behaviour, well, do they really care? If the church collectively has learned lessons about safeguarding, and we are not as the church, because that's you. People can't say, oh, the church does this, the church does this. You're the church. I'm the church. If the church isn't learning the lessons of safeguarding, do we really care? So for all of these reasons, taking safeguarding seriously and doing it as well as possible is fundamental to us being church, being the people of a loving and just God, and especially to being an inclusive church. We want to be somewhere we can say all are welcome, that anyone can find that God has found them. So this is important. I'll try and keep this light, and I'll try and keep it interesting. This is a long one. You might want to go back and watch this again afterwards on the video. Practically, what is safeguarding? I tried to find a short, pithy definition, and I couldn't. It's too complex to be put down in a sentence. It's a whole page, and it's different for adults and for children, but it's about preventing harms, intervening where there is neglect. Specifically, it's about ensuring that children are growing up in circumstances consistent with the provision of safe and effective care. And for adults, it's about protecting their rights to live in safety, free from abuse and neglect, and allowing them to step out of that. We work with 318 in the diocese. They're a great charitable organisation, and they do all our DBS checks and things like that, but they do a lot of training. And they have pinned down safeguarding in a good church as 6 overlapping things that we'll be looking at with the PCC and sometimes coming to you. So this is what they think safeguarding is. A church with good safeguarding builds effective structures, listens well, establishes good governance, communicates well, models safe behaviours, and manages power. You don't need to remember that. But there's these 6 interlocking things. And some of that stuff comes down to policies and procedures and admin and systems and training and background checks. And much of that is done by Carol on our behalf, or our PSO. PSO? Do we know what I mean when I say PSO? Ooh, we should all know that. First lecture. So your parish safeguarding officer is very important, your PSO. And that is June at the moment. And her photo and her details are on the poster at the back and in both of the toilets. So some of this stuff is done by June and by Carol, our administrator. Some of it is done by the PCC, by our wardens, by me and Lizzie and Sue and Paul and Kim as licensed ministers in this church. And the DSAs. Do you know what a DSA is? Dave knows what a DSA is. The rest of you should know that those are diocesan safeguarding advisors. If anything comes up and you can't get a straight answer from me or from June, or if June and I need to ask something, we call the diocesan safeguarding advisors. And the DSAs are brilliant. If we have any concerns ever about paying our parish share, they're worth it all by themselves. They are expert, they're available, they give good, clear, legally compliant, compassionate advice swiftly. So some of the stuff is done by people with jobs and roles and training. But some of it is done by all of us. We can all do listening well. We can all do managing power. Building effective structures here at church will include some of those things that are done, the DBS checks, up-to-date training, safer recruitment. Who's heard me talk about safer recruitment? Okay, not enough of us. So safe recruitment is this thing, that's on me. I'm not telling you off, I'm telling myself off. If anybody wants a role in church, we have to do safe recruitment, where we work out, do they need a DBS for this? Have they got a role description that tells them what they should and shouldn't do? Who's in charge of them? Do they meet with that person at least once a year and make sure everything's going all right? Have we asked for references before they start doing it? At least one from someone not in this church. This is safer recruitment. It's a whole system, and we use it for anybody in any role at all. It's really important. It's where we work out if people need a DBS check. We need to tighten that up, and apparently I need to talk about it more often. Effective structures means things like having at least 2 adults for kids' work. If we don't, they have to stop. Ideally, you want 3. If you think about it, we've sent Olivia and Nicola out with the kids, and thankfully, who went? Olivia took Harriet took Fiona. Good. If either of them has a problem and needs to send for help, they're a bit stuck, actually. We should really have 3 people everywhere. If we are not at 3 people per kids' activity, sometimes they can't run. We almost had to cancel youth group on a Wednesday one evening this year because there weren't 3 people. So we need 1 more in case you need to send somebody. That's an effective structure that we're building here. Another key structure, I would suggest, is our theology, because it sort of underpins what we talk about, which means our thinking and talking about God. It matters as an inclusive church. If we speak positively about self-worth and love, and everyone truly feels they are seen and known and worthy, that makes a difference, because it is much harder to take advantage of and abuse somebody who feels that they are a worthy person. That makes sense? Self-worth matters, and that comes from our theology. And on the flip side, some theology I would categorize as dangerous and abusive. Some of the things that you will hear said about same-sex relationships and transgender issues and some other things. Our theology is an important structure. Your job is to pay attention, ask good questions, and tell us if it's unhelpful and we're getting it wrong, which is hard because of power. Managing power is one of the things that makes safeguarding a nightmare in the church. Safeguarding is a bigger issue here than it is, say, at the Bowls Club, for all sorts of reasons, because of who comes here. But power is one of those things. Who saw Celebrity Traitors? Some of us. Who has heard of Celebrity Traitors? Good, all right. So you're aware that a bunch of celebrities were locked in a castle and given instructions on deceiving each other and trying to work out who was deceiving each other. When you walk in there, all those celebrities very quickly had a sense, like a radar of, where's the power? Who are the big dogs? Who's got influence and sway? Who is close to being a national treasure? Who is new? Nobody's heard of us. Nobody's listening to us. We have no power. It's hard to get things done. Ruth Codd was eliminated quite early on. I'd never heard of her. She noticed that. She said this: there was an unspoken hierarchy in there, and that placed certain people like myself at a disadvantage. I hadn't been in the industry very long. She couldn't get her point across. She wasn't listened. She was easily shuffled out of the way. And that's when it's kind of unspoken. They all knew. Here, it is spoken. Too much reverence can be a problem, and they call me the Reverend. Is it any wonder there are problems with vicars? Too much power is dangerous. Those of us who stand at the front of church are generally, and by definition, good at public speaking. We have a certain level of charisma. This is not me telling you how fabulous I am, but that's the thing with vicars and public speakers, right? That's how we get the gig in the first place. Alan Carr is quite charismatic, and he got away with some shocking and quite evidently traitory behaviour because that was just Alan being Alan, and we let him get away with that because he's charismatic and charming and funny. It is very dangerous to be charismatic and charming and funny. Do not let people like that get away with it and shield themselves from scrutiny. And that's who we put at the front. And we give them incredible power and authority. That big pulpit frightens me because there's a lot of power standing up there. We let us, I sit there, stand at the front and tell you what the God of the universe thinks is right and how you should be living your life. The people at the front of church, we subconsciously admit to have power over how we think and feel and judge ourselves. That is an incredible amount of power, easily open to abuse as well as to blessing. And you have to give us that power, otherwise we can't do the good stuff. But you can see the issues with power in a church. Another problem where churches particularly come a cropper with safeguarding issues and complaints and managing this stuff is grace and forgiveness. Believing the best of people. These are admirable things. We don't want to believe ill of people, and we will sometimes willfully overlook, like, oh, no, they must be fabulous. They're Jesus' favourite. They wouldn't have done that. It is admirable to some extent, but it is twisted. This cannot be the sort of, well, innocent until proven guilty, let us think the best of people. That's how the courts work, and they should. But with safeguarding concerns, if you have a worry, we need to go with, well, maybe they did do it, they're potentially guilty, let's be extra careful. There is a cost to this, but there's something about the nature of churches as loving and forgiving that gets in the way. I found a really good podcast on this lately. I put the link in the family news email. Do give it a listen. On another issue for churches. It's from the podcast, A God We Could Believe In. It's all worth listening to, but this one was about why abuse is a problem in church, and they addressed power and forgiveness, but they talked about fear. People will have fear of bringing this stuff in church, I think for two reasons. They will fear the fact, if we talk about this stuff, we go, oh, that vicar there, that wasn't very good, and word gets out, well, it's damaging to our reputation. It's damaging to ministry and evangelism and to the gospel. We need to protect God from that. We need to protect the church from that. We do not. God is bigger than that, and God does not need protecting. But I think we've all learned from the scandals in the media in the last few years that the lies and the secrecy and the covering up is a lot more damaging. But it's a problem in church when we're precious about our ministry and our reputation, and rightly so, but we misthink what protects it. And I think the other fear we have in church is this. So I have learned something new that has helped me in the last couple of weeks, that has been a blessing in how I think about life. I'm going to offer you a new paradigm. One of the problems we have with safeguarding is fear, because we don't want to poke things in case our faith starts crumbling. So sometimes we talk about faith being a wall. My dad used to talk about life being like a wall. You lay your foundations, you build things on top. Go to school, work hard. Everything will follow. And sometimes with faith we have, the Bible is true, God is good, vicars are safe, church will be nice. These are the things we know at the bottom. You build things on top of that, and if you can trust this, the whole thing is fine. It kind of makes sense, but it's brittle. If you take one of these out because you think, well, I got the Bible is true, oh, but then I read Genesis and realized that the first two chapters don't quite agree with each other, but actually they're poetry, and what does true mean? Oh, I don't know what to do with that. Or I read all of the Gospels back to back and realized that they don't quite have the same things in the same order. Are they not literally true? What does true... If we start pulling at these bricks sometimes, we don't want to take them out because faith will fall down. And if one of those bricks is the vicar is good and church is safe, we don't want to poke at it in case our faith falls down. Walls, solid, but they're brittle. A better way, apparently, of thinking about our faith, and I absolutely love this from a Parenting for Faith book, is the structure of a spider's web. I love spiders' webs. I'd rather they were outside my house, but they're very clever. Spiders' webs are made of stuff stronger than steel, and they are stretchy. They don't have a foundation. They have these anchor threads, 4, 5, 6 different anchor threads, and they are designed to break. It's not a failure of purpose if a spider's web breaks. If something gets knocked off by you walking past, or it needing to be used up by a fly getting caught in it, or by you changing your mind about what the vicar meant about the Bible, or seeing somebody doing something they shouldn't doing. You just rearrange that thread when it breaks. It's supposed to be rearranged and connected to something slightly better. It's flexible. And doing this requires approaching your faith with a bit of curiosity, going, okay, what's wrong with it? All of these might need to change at some point. What might be wrong with them, and being open to that, and being ready to live with a bit of tension, saying, I don't understand all of these bits, that's probably okay, and the whole thing won't fall apart if we lose one or two or three of our threads. As a paradigm shift, I found that eye-opening and helpful. I offer it to you. But it speaks to me that having curiosity about our faith and not being worried about knocking bricks out is fundamental to safeguarding and doing that well. That makes sense? I hope so. We do quite well at that here, I think. We have termly Ask Me Anythings. I encourage you always to write down your questions, and we will try and answer them as well as we can. We like to start doing that online. Write even more of them down. We will regularly stand at the front here, Sue and me and Paul and Richard and Lizzie, and say, I don't know. And that confuses me, and it is complicated, and we don't understand. We will model this for you, but I can't be curious for you. You do need to ask your own questions. When they pop into your head, don't just squish them down. And I think the last blockage to safeguarding in churches, hopefully less so here, is complacency. We will tell ourselves that we're fabulous, which is probably true, but that it could never happen here, which is certainly not. Because it's going to happen somewhere. These things do. Why not here? And looking at it ruthlessly and being prepared to say, that could happen here, how do we stop it, makes it harder for people to take advantage of people here. Hardly anybody wants to abuse somebody else. It's a vanishingly small number of people. We should believe the best of people, but there are such people, and we just need to make it hard enough that they move on, and they move on, and they move on. Eventually that makes a difference. There are costs to doing safeguarding well. We might have to cancel some youth group activities if we can't find enough people to do it safely. That's right and good, though. Ideally, we get more people. Surely we have to put the time and the training into it. I'm going to ask you to do the training. It's going to take you 75 minutes, which is a chunk of your time. But wouldn't we rather do that than have somebody suffering abuse or neglect? And wouldn't we rather do that than have to look ourselves in the mirror and think, I could maybe have done a little bit more to make this place safer? So there are costs, but they are important. And on the flip side, actually, most of these policies make things better when you do them. If we've got more people to lead the sessions, they run better. If we've got better systems of this safer recruitment, and I'm meeting you, or Sue or Kim is meeting you once a year, you're going to have a better time running your activity. So these systems are a blessing. Right. I'll start pulling this together. I know this is a long one. I'm going to do a couple of practical, what would I do in a situation things. Then I'm going to pull it together and talk about your pledges. If you see something happening in church that you think, that's not right, I'm not sure that should be going on, that seems inappropriate to me, if it sets your radar off, or something happens to you that you think is inappropriate, what do you do? Well, you tell me or you tell June. These are the two safeguarding leads here. You could also tell Kim or Sue or Paul or Lizzie, because they've had the same level of training, but they will immediately tell me and or June, probably both of us, unless it's about one of us, okay? Those are the people you tell. I will not tell anyone else apart from June and the diocesan safety advisor. This is the tricky bit about safeguarding. About people say, I could tell the vicar anything, and it's confidential, right? Nearly anything you tell us is treated confidentially, but if there is a safeguarding concern, I will tell the relevant people, which will be June and the DSA. I won't tell the wardens. I won't tell PCC. I won't tell Lizzie, for instance. We keep this very safe. I tell as few people as necessary, but as many as necessary. And I will write it down on a piece of paper and put that piece of paper in a locked safe that is kept just for that. So it's not saved somewhere that someone else could accidentally come across it. I will not, you hear about this. Say you come to me with a complaint about Kim. She's been doing something she shouldn't be doing. I'm picking you because you've been thoroughly checked and I trust it's not you, but it could be. I will not make you sit down in a meeting with me and Kim and go, right, well, Kim, this person says you did that. Is that true? It's very hard for you to turn around to Kim and say, you'll start backing out of it. We are not going to do that, okay? So we'll write it down. We will talk to the relevant people. We will keep you safe. We will look after you. We will treat it with some confidence. And if it's true, well, we'll behave as if it is true. If you've made an allegation against Kim, then it could be for a little while I'd stop her from doing what she does a bit. We will believe you, and that's right and appropriate while investigations are carried out. Generally not by me. I'm not a detective. We talk to the DSA about that. So that's the process. If you've got any concerns, see me. And Kim and I would rather, and Sue and Lizzie and Paul, would rather go through that than have anything hushed up, covered up, and brushed to one side. That's better, okay? We had an example. I found this on the NSPCC, so a really specific thing. So say during a Sunday school session, they're at kids' church, they're out there. One of our volunteers notices that 8-year-old Sam is quiet and jumpy, and he's got a bruise on his arm. When asked, he says he got it when Daddy was angry. Then they would follow, a tiny bit of training for you, what we call the 4 R's, I'm hoping, because they've had some safeguarding training. They would recognise that this is potentially a sign of abuse. They would respond by listening to Sam calmly, not pushing for extra details, that's unhelpful, reassuring Sam, saying you did the right thing by talking. They'll record it factually, piece of paper, what was seen and heard in the child's words, and then they'll report it to me and or June or both of us immediately and leave it with us, and we'll store that safely. If you had a concern about me, you talk to the DSA and you take factual notes. I could do hundreds of these, we'd be here all day. We'll be doing some at PCC, but hopefully you can see, I think especially in a church, this is a job for all of us. Church is when it's going well, and I think this one is. This is a good church. We're a safe and inclusive church. People will meet God here. People will relax and open up and feel vulnerable here, and then start to think, I need to tell somebody about this thing that I'm remembering, or this thing that I've seen, and they will trust almost anyone around them. Any one of you could be the trusted adult that a person who has something to disclose, is the word we use, could come to. Does that make sense? People don't just pick me at the front. I'm often busy. And it's a bit threatening. So any one of us could be the person that hears a disclosure for the first time. And it's not rocket science, these 4 hours and 1 or 2 other bits, but it is probably worth a bit more training than 3 minutes at the end of a sermon. So there is safeguarding training at various levels available for anybody. Please do it. Kim and I and Sue and Paul and Lizzie, we have to do 4 levels, and the top stuff is intense and emotionally draining and really, really thorough. The bottom level is a video that you watch with some questions you click on that takes 75 minutes. You need to make an account. It's a tiny bit technical, but we can help you. And you click on the link in the Family News email, it will take you through it. And if you've already done safeguarding training somewhere else, it's still worth doing because it talks about church context and the things to look out for and what to do. So we're all in this. Any one of you might need to respond and respond well. Please do the training. And if you can't work out how, give me a shout. I'll sort you out. I have some pledge cards, though. We'll say it takes all of us. I think we can all do something to make this place as safe as possible. Because is this church safe? Yes. Is it as safe as it possibly could be? No, nothing ever is. But can we do more to make it safe? I hope so. On your way in, hopefully, I think we forgot to give these out. Can I wave this at you? I have these bits of paper. I love a bit of paper at church. This is your safeguarding pledge. What are you going to do to make sure this church, if you're a part of it, is as safe as possible? I dare to suggest to you that it cannot be nothing if you're going to look yourself in the mirror and have any sort of self-respect. We want this place to be safe. There are lots of things you could do. Let me give you a list, and you can come back to me and watch the video back. You could do the training. 75 minutes of your life every 3 years. I know some of us have done enough training. It's good. Do it with a friend. Get together. What else can you do? You can pray for the people who do safeguarding, for those of us in leadership, for the diocese, for June. Keep us in your prayers. You could commit to, every week, I've taken mine off for the sermon, but wearing your name badge. It is a lot harder to get away with abuse in a place if you are made to walk around with your name written on you, right? The people who want to get away with these things will go away if they see that we're all wearing name badges. It makes it harder, as well as it making it easier for you to have a chit-chat afterwards and know who people are. Wear your name badge. You could commit to that on your little pledge. You could promise not to treat me and Sue and Paul and Lizzie and Richard and so on with any more reverence than we are due, which is very little. You should ask us the difficult questions, assume that we get things wrong, and promise to speak up if something is going on. A practical thing for you. If you want something you can commit to doing, write in your phone the phone numbers of me and June, our PSO, and the DSA. Just put them in safeguarding brackets June, safeguarding brackets diocese, so that when something happens, go, you haven't got to Google it, just put our phone numbers in your phone. That seems like a really quick win for all of us. You could be more informed. We all could be. It's hard, but make yourself watch that Channel 4 documentary on abuse in the church, if you can face it. Listen to the podcast that I recommended. Be more informed. When things come up on the news, click on the link, pay attention. And a big one, for someone I'm hoping, is that you could be our new parish safeguarding officer. June needs to step down. She's served us ably, but we need somebody else to do that. Most of the time, it is a bit of admin, and not very much. Occasionally, it's intense and takes training and some emotional bandwidth, but we need you to do that, and it can't be one of us that leads because of conflict of interest. So we need a new PSO. So maybe that's for you. Have a think, have a pray, let me know. But write it down. Putting it on a bit of paper, this is what I'm going to do, helps you keep yourself accountable. Make sense? A bit boring, really important. Take one with you, please. I suppose the last thing is, if you have something to say, if something has happened to you or you've seen something, then do immediately after this. Come and see me, or give me a ring afterwards, or drop me an email, or call June. All of our details are on the blue posters. We all want this place to be a place of love and safety, do we not? A refuge where anybody we bring along, that you can feel comfortable. I'll bring my friend here, they will be safe. Things will get better here for people to be and feel safe. It's a kingdom call of the God who loves everybody, and we are called to be on God's side, doing that with him. Amen. Do you ask some questions? Yes, we'll keep the video going for a moment. Go on, really quick one. Okay, I'm going to give I'll repeat those questions. So what are we safeguarding against, and who could be a victim or a perpetrator? I don't want to misspeak on those, and write those down and we'll put them in the Ask Me Anything box, and I'll do those in much more length. But we're safeguarding against accidental harms, where people forget and often will need to correct things because people just don't quite know what the best practice is, and occasionally against people who are seeking to do harm. We are protecting people against stuff that happens outside of the church. We have done some work with violence against women and girls, and domestic violence against people of either gender. So there's phone numbers in all the toilets for the domestic violence hotline. And we want to be a place where you could report and discuss and bring to light things that have happened elsewhere. So we're protecting against inappropriate, violent, sexual, controlling, dangerous behaviour in the church, or known to us here in the church. And who could be a victim or a perpetrator? Anybody. Either. Anybody could be a victim or a perpetrator. It is more likely that it's the vulnerable, that it's children, that it's people of diminished capacity of some sort, but not exclusively. And patterns of controlling behaviour mean that it can be anybody. My wife was watching the John Smythe video, and there's bits where you're watching going, why didn't they just say something, these people experiencing the abuse? We don't blame them. It isn't their fault. Why didn't they? That tells you something. If these smart, educated people are not saying something, is because it is too hard to say something. They've been controlled into thinking differently. So it can happen to anybody. So we always need our radar on. We don't assume that everybody's doing it, but we certainly don't assume that nobody's doing it. Is that enough of a short answer for now? And we'll do it in more length, but yeah, anyone and anywhere. We'll draw that to a close. I'll leave you in Sue's hands. We're going to pause and give that a moment. If you do have more questions, write them down, come and see me. There's always a box at the back, or you can email. Thank you.